The fixed percentage of spend is where you charge a fixed percent of spend based on the prior month's total spend. And again, you might have this broken out by platform, but I'm going to talk about this as if you've just calculating a total spend across all platforms for the entire month. And by the way, like you typically charge your clients monthly. Actually, Forbes magazine pays us quarterly. A few clients request paying us quarterly, and that's not the end of the world either. If a client wants to do that, that's fine, especially if it's like a legitimate client and you have no concern of them paying you. And if you charge them up front, as we do for Forbes. So guidelines for fixed percentage billing. So aim to be between 8 and 15% of total spend, depending on the complexity of the project. So what do I mean by complexity of the project? Well, if you're managing a Google Ads account that's running YouTube, display, remarketing, shopping, and search, you might want to be closer to 15% of spend. If the budget is a large budget for you, right? So let's say 20 grand a month in spend is large for you. So you might want to be like a 10, 8 or 9% of spend. Usually once you're over, and just I'm talking about just as industry benchmarks in general, across most digital advertising agencies, once you're dealing with clients who are spending over 100 grand a month in spend, certainly over 200 grand a month in spend, you're typically bringing that percentage down to between 8, 9, and 10%. But even 5% for a $200,000 spend is not unheard of at all. But I would never go below 5% of spend if I'm doing a fixed percentage of spend system, unless I structured an aggressive bonus where I've discounted the rate to, let's say, 4%. And we have that with one client. So like we have a client that is, if they're at $600,000 a month or above, our management fee goes to 4% plus a bonus if we hit certain performance thresholds. Second of all, make sure to have a base fee, even if it's more than 15% of spend. So it's okay to have a base fee that exceeds 15% if it's your base fee. Like we spoke about earlier, $6.99, $3.99, $16.99, whatever it may be. Again, if you describe the base fee transparently to your client, and the way I do that is I say, well, there's a certain amount of work we need to put into any account, right? There's just people that I've hired or my own time, the amount of time it takes to research keywords, to look through the search terms report, to write new ads, to manage the remarketing lists, to manage Google Analytics, to analyze the data, to communicate the results to you. There's just a certain amount we have to charge. If you're getting quotes from another agency that's going to charge you significantly less than that, you should question whether or not you're actually getting good quality human time work, managing your account. So it's okay to have a base fee. You should have a base fee. Channels could be itemized or grouped depending on the growth potential of the client. So like I said, if it's a very small client with limited growth potential, like you don't see the business scaling at all. Let's say it's like, somebody's advertising for an in-person cupcake baking class where it's a summer program and they could only have 10 kids. Well, how much could you possibly scale that account? So maybe you'll charge them for Facebook, you'll charge them for LinkedIn, you'll charge them for Google, when you really know that it might not be a long-term client, but even if it is, it's not that scalable. So that's an instance where you might itemize the different channels. So the pros and cons. So pros of fixed percentage of spend, it's easily understood, easy to pitch. Like I'm going to charge you 10% of spend. Here's the contract. It's super, super simple. The fee scales proportionally with budget, right? That's also good. So as budget goes up, you're charging them more. So for every additional dollar spent on advertising, you're making more money. That's another advantage of a fixed percentage of spend system. It also allows you to combine channels into one budget. So it's a very easy way of dealing with that, total spend system. It's just like, we're going to calculate all the money you spent through our agency or through myself, and I'm going to charge you 12% of that, period. Goodbye. We never have to think about it again. The downsides, almost impossible, but it's very hard to bill at the start of the month. So usually you're going to be billing for the work you've done because you need to know that spend. We have one client where we do charge a fixed percentage of spend, where we do charge them at the beginning of the month with the predicted amount of spend. And in the following invoice, we adjust. Either we give a discount if we over predicted, or we charge an additional amount if we undershot what the total spend would be. But that's a little bit of a complicated system, and you typically don't want to be involved in that sort of analysis if you're the one managing the budget and the fees every single month. And it's great to bill at the first of the month because you're billing the client for the work you're going to do. So like, who wouldn't love that? The fee goes down with a decrease in budget, right? So that's the same advantage you have that same disadvantage. You can't anticipate the exact amount that you're going to bill, and the client doesn't know exactly what they're going to receive. That's a disadvantage. And here are two other big disadvantages that exist with fixed percentage systems. Clients may suspect ulterior motives with budget increase suggestions. And this is even the case if you're doing a combined spend approach. And we've had this happen all the time. So like, we were doing these fixed percentage of spend systems a lot. And, we would tell a client like, listen, remarketing on Facebook for your e-commerce is working really well. Let's increase the spend by 30%. And even if the data was like unbelievably clear, if it's early on in a relationship and you haven't established that really strong sense of trust, the client might suspect, well, if you raise that fee, if you raise your spend by $3,000, your fee's going to go up by $300 or whatever it is. So it's like, and it's very hard to get out of that mindset. You don't want that. Like I said, it's a bad poisonous thought for clients to have. That shouldn't kill fixed percentage of spend systems. Like in most cases, you're going to have a good relationship with your client, and the client themselves are going to want to increase the fee. It's just a potential downside. And if you could avoid it, you should. And it's avoidable in most cases. So the clients might be hesitant to suggest an increase in budget. It's the same concern, just flipped around. So the client, if they know that if they increase spend on Google, they have to increase spend with you automatically, then they might think twice about increasing spend on Google. But increasing spend in any area of their campaigns might be good for their business. And if something's good for their business, you want it to happen, because if their business is doing well, you're growing, you're retaining the client, you're earning their business month over month. So you don't want that dynamic to play out. Those are things that could happen in a fixed percentage of spend billing arrangement.